All right, welcome everyone. This is our regular scheduled town council meeting, our January 7th, and we welcome all the people that are attending tonight. First of all, we'll have our roll call, if I could.
Shannon.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Canty.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Edwards. Here. Cavazos. Here. Day.
Great. Our first order of business is our Pledge of Allegiance. We have some Cub Scouts from Alvey Elementary, Den 8, Pack 18, or excuse me, 1382, Avery Hansen, and is it pronounced Renoa Ramsey, Makla Johnson, Michaela, I apologize, Evelyn or Evie, and also Isabella. Yep, is here. Did I get everyone? Great. All right. So we could have you all lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. That was a job very well done. We also have the privilege of having Pastor Tim McGowan from the Living Hope Evangelical Presbyterian Church here with us to tell us a little bit about the church, how are you doing, and then lead us into invocation, sir.
Sure, we're doing well. Well, we've been 12 years in the town of Haymarket, 7 at the El Vaquero building, and 5 years with Dr. Landry at the QBE building, and outgrown both of those. We're bought land on Route 15, just down from Sheets on the same side of the road. So we're getting our SUP ready for that in the next couple of years to build. In the meantime, we're meeting on Vint Hill. So things are going well, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Great.
Would you pray with me, please?
Absolutely.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for our nation. We thank you for the freedoms that we enjoy. Lord, we ask you to preserve us. We ask you to make us humble, that we would listen and learn. We pray for those who rule over us, that they would be wise and discerning in doing what is right. We thank you for the laws by which we're governed, and we know that they all flow from you. And so we ask you to give us gratitude, Lord, as we start this 2019, and we submit ourselves to you. It's in your name, Lord Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you, sir. All right, our next item is our public hearing. We're going to start out with our first one, which will open and then close, and then go into our SUP, where we'll open for comments as well. For those that hadn't attended public hearing, this is your chance to be able to let the council hear your thoughts on the matter. We ask for you to come up to the dais, state your name and address for the record, and feel free. We do have, I think, published in the back there, just some of the speaking rules, but they're very basic common sense rules of speaking in front of the dais here. If you could maybe limit your time to 3 to 5 minutes, that would be great, and we'd love to hear your comments. So with no objection, I'm going to go ahead and open our public hearing for ZTA 2018-001, the funeral home and crematory definition amendments. So that would be speaking regarding that subject for either in favor or opposed. So I'll open the floor.
Council, my name is Brett Fry. I own a business in town. I had planned a large speech, but since I'm 3 to 4 minutes here, I'll keep it clean. All I would ask is that you consider this town's future, and you consider it in the manner with which we need to move forward with people that want to be a part of this town. Everything is not perfect. You cannot design a town before you build the town. You must allow that town to build. And I think that we are here looking and making judgment on a family man that is bringing a proven business model. This model keeps the grounds and the building immaculate by definition. You're going to hear opposition. And that ranges from traffic, which, let's face it, we're going to deal with any new business that comes up. So what I ask is you really take a look at the person that is opening this business and the family man and realize that we are gaining an asset. This town is gaining an asset with this business. Again, you're going to hear many opposition. I really would like you to consider the look of the town and the fact that we're building this town. We are not planning this town before it was built. We're building it now. And this is a spot that a restaurant or perfect, as you may say, business is going to run into some problems. And I think many of the people that are going to complain don't realize that it's not only do you have to purchase that building to put a restaurant or a coffee shop in there, you're going to have to put it on city water. And that's going to be an extra 50 to 100 grand to do so. And for a small business to go in there, and I know this for a fact because the business that was reported to want to buy and put a business there before this one had those issues. I just think that this is someone that we need to support, and I think that this is a good fit. And they have my support fully. So I ask you to truthfully and honestly look at the vision and consider this business. Thank you.
Good. Thank you for your comments, sir.
Dottie Leonard, 14801 Washington Street. I want to also speak in support of the applicant. I don't know the applicant personally, but I know that it meets a need that our town has. Historically, we had a funeral home in the Watts house, and it would have been wonderful to have it be there, but that didn't work out. So this is a perfect spot where the colonial structure is already in place. There's adequate parking already in place. It won't bring more traffic than the bank and less traffic than a restaurant would have brought in a day's time. I think if we want to see all of us want to see the town developed correctly, and we want the blight buildings to go away. But we also need to be, I'll use a scripture because we had a pastor here, he's gone. But, all right. I'm going to use a scripture that says, rightly divide the word. We should rightly divide the word of God when we're reading it, and it's up to all of you to rightly divide the people out here who are speaking for or against. And I trust you to do that. Even when you speak against me, it hurts me, but I like that Robert Day explained to me why he voted the way he did. And I look for all of you to make reasonable decisions for the purpose of developing this town. And it doesn't mean that every single building has to be saved. It just means that what we do has to fit, and it has to be something that meets a need that the town has. When people go to the funeral home, when someone who's deceased is honored there, there are other properties in this town, and excuse my handshaking, it's a new thing. There are other properties in town that will benefit from the families who go there. They may want to walk across the street or up the street or down the street to a place they can have coffee and sit and talk and cry together or whatever. It will bring businesses to some of the businesses who've come in here and said to you, we need a shot in the arm. We need better advertising. We need better signs. We need this. We need that. We are a town of people, not a town of government. Government serves the people, and this is a need the people have. Thank you for honestly and justly considering. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments there.
Evening, Bob Weir, 6853 St. Paul Drive. And let me be clear, I'm not going to talk about funeral home tonight. That's allowed under our ordinances with a special use permit. I'm going to talk about the ZTA that you're dealing in front, that you have in front of you, and that's strictly regarding the crematorium. It's an industrial use. Quite frankly, it's not one that belongs in this town, and I've read the staff report, and there is a reference to other towns that have funeral homes and crematoria locally. The only two that have them are Leesburg and Warrenton, arguably the two largest towns. Leesburg, for example, has 52,000 people, 52,000 residents, and encompasses 12.5 square miles. That's not Haymarket. The other 11 towns do not permit it, and in fact, prohibit it in 3. The 3 small ones that prohibit it are Percival, Dumfries, and Hamilton. They understand what type of industrial use this is and how it doesn't comport with the nature of the small town. There's questions regarding what the impact of this would be on this neighboring land values, particularly the residential. And there are studies that show results on both sides. Some say it lessens it, some say it doesn't make any difference. And a number of them make the point that since the recession and the market crash, nobody really knows. What I do know is this. The example that's cited in the paperwork submitted by the applicant is for lack of a better term, high-end development located on waterfront in a Florida county. That's not an exemplar that you would use to compare to Haymarket. And I think you guys need to consider that. The only other thing I would note is that once again, we're here in a hurry. Everything's being pushed through. It was said at the Planning Commission meetings. We have to do this quickly. You know, we have to push these things through. In fact, I thought the Planning Commission was going to have a second hearing on the SUP because that's the way that the language in the agenda was worded. I couldn't make that meeting with all the intent of showing up this month to the meeting to speak about that. But that's gone by the board since they pushed it through that night. The reason that gives me cause is because of the discussion of pushing it through, because of the discussion that, oh, this is only going to impact this one because there's not going to be any more, or there probably won't be any more, gives me pause given the way that the Supreme Court of Virginia has defined spot zoning. And it's my understanding that if the purpose of a zoning ordinance is solely to serve the private interests of one or more landowners, as this certainly appears to be, given that they filed both the SUP and the ZTA, the ordinance probably represents an arbitrary and capricious exercise of your legislative power. Am I going to challenge it? Probably not. But it doesn't mean that someone won't, and that's something for you to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. My name is John King. I'm a
Resident of-
6934 Little John Court.
There you-
Greenhill Crossing, that's what I was trying to say. As a resident of the town, I have to say I was a little surprised that something of this nature would be considered for my town. I would like to communicate that my family is opposed to this business coming into the town. I was speaking with my son last night about this, and he made a comment to me that he and his friends on weekends in the summertime, they go to Sheetz, Subway, Chick-fil-A all the time. He said, Dad, if that's in town, we're not walking past there. We're not riding our bike past a funeral home or a crematorium. I'm not even walking on the other side of the street, he said. So he's not a taxpayer, but just to reflect how my family feels about it, we don't feel it's appropriate for this town. Somebody had brought up the traffic. I think if I passed away tomorrow, I feel pretty confident that people come to my funeral, there won't be enough parking for it, and traffic is traffic in Haymarket. But I feel like it's not appropriate for the town. solely speaking as a homeowner to taxpayers.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you for your comments, sir. Anyone else that would like to speak on the ZTA? Seeing that, I'm going to go ahead with no objection, close the public hearing for the ZTA, and we're going to open our public hearing for SUP 2018-010 at 14901 Washington Street for the funeral home and crematory special use permit. Would I like to speak in favor or opposed?
Hey, Council. Brett Fry, business owner in the town. I'm not a parent yet. I have one on the way in June. So I haven't had a conversation as I drove past the funeral home with any of my own children. I'm a godfather to over 7 children, and the 8th one being little. I've never once driven or walked past a funeral home or crematorium where I've had to have a conversation with one of them. So the issue of the crematorium and how to explain and or justify that boggles my mind. It doesn't look any different, and if anybody has taken the opportunity to go visit the gentleman's other establishments, it doesn't look any different. It doesn't smell any different. There's no visible difference that you would be forced to explain other than your own bias to your children about that. So I have no problem as a business owner operating my business literally right next to a crematorium. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else would like to speak? Get Bob about halfway up before he saw you come in, but come on up. No. No. We'll take either. He yields the floor to you, Dottie.
I was a little confused. I thought I was speaking in favor of the whole thing before. But I will reiterate, 14801 Washington Street, and I am in full support of their use. I don't think it would be offensive. Again, it's 1 block from where the town historically had a funeral home anyway. 1 measly block. There was one already. And the hearse was kept across the street in a stone building that I don't think is there anymore. And it was actually pulled, it was a wagon pulled by horses kind of hearse, and then became something motorized later. But it was in the Watts house, and if you've ever been inside that house, you can see that historically 1 large room downstairs was set aside for people together for what they called a wake. For obvious reasons, because sometimes some people woke up, which was a good thing. But when they get to heaven, they're going to wake up too. So I just want to say, I don't think it's offensive. It wouldn't be offensive to my children. I raised my children on Madison Street. They rode up and down that street on their bicycles. They rode past banks, restaurants, gas stations. And I agree with the previous speaker who said you wouldn't know what was going on inside the building because what goes on inside it doesn't come to the outside. Even if the traffic goes to a cemetery, they simply line up and pull out like they would pull out of McDonald's and like they would pull out of the bank line. So I don't see any of it as offensive. I could say more, but I won't at this time. I just wanted to clarify, Mayor, were you also saying citizens' time is over now, too?
No, ma'am, we're going to have citizens' time. That's after our department reports.
Okay.
So before we actually take any action items, we're going to have a break, but we'll definitely have citizens' time.
Thank you for
Yes.
clarifying
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. And just to clarify again, we're on the SUP for public comments.
Bob, we are still at 6853 St. Paul, and now we are going to talk about the funeral home. Funeral homes are funny things, especially when you put them in conjunction or in close conjunction with a residential neighborhood, as we've got here. Do I have a problem with death? Would I particularly have a problem living across the street from it for that reason? No, but a lot of people do, and a lot of people are concerned. Realtors as well. I've seen the studies again both ways. That some people are uncomfortable living there, or some people believe they're going to have a problem selling that particular parcel or their residence if there's a funeral home across the street from it. I understand the business is being happy with it, not having an issue. It might provide additional business to them. They don't live there. They don't live directly across the street. And I do have some concerns about the screening and the traffic on this one, particularly given its location. Is it the best location in town for a funeral home? No, probably not. Are there better ones? Yeah. Are they available? Probably not. But you guys have to make the decision as to whether this particular puzzle piece fits in that part of the puzzle. I don't think it does. It's got nothing to do with the business itself, but it's just the impact of the people that are surrounding it. The longtime residents on Madison Street, I don't see them here tonight. I'm not quite sure why, although most of this has happened over the holidays and they might not be aware. But it certainly doesn't sound to me like something that you want to do. The last part of it is the traffic. I've looked at the traffic plan. I've got concerns. I'm not going to go into depth about it. But given the location and the way that they want to route the traffic and what kind of traffic you're talking about when these things come out, depending on what time of day it is, I've got serious concerns just given the size of Madison Street and how you're going to funnel the traffic in and out of there. And I think that needs a little bit of a closer look. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Council Mayor. Sean Landry, 14454 Shanbury Circle. I just wanted to say something about a small business trying to invest in the town. I think that's important to consider when you look at somebody else really coming here and trying to invest in making one of these buildings that's vacant occupiable, and actually, building something around that. We could continue to look for the perfect tenant, look for the perfect thing. We have a ton of buildings that are almost condemned or getting condemned that are constantly going into disrepair. I think, you look at a large business that has lots of developers, it's much easier to kind of wrap our arms around and kind of see an easy plan. But a small business and, somebody that is personally investing, I think it's something to look at and consider. That's my input. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment, sir. Anyone else who would like to speak? Just making sure don't have anybody else. Okay, with no objection, I'm going to go ahead and close our public hearing. Our next item on our agenda will be our Deck the Doors contest winners. And I'm not sure if we have anyone here tonight, but we do. Okay, great. Vice, would you like to read them? Okay.
I don't know if anybody here is from Copper Cricket.
Okay,
Pam was listed here, but she's, details is here.
great.
I know that Ozo Persnickety is here.
Oh, great, okay.
Okay?
Yeah, let's go ahead and go up.
Go over here?
Sure. Okay. Council, you like to join? Yep. Other towns do this where they actually bring the whole council up to present things. I always thought that was kind of a unique thing, so we'd like to keep with that tradition as well.
First off, I would like to thank all the business owners in town and residents as well. We just don't currently have awards for the residents for participating in this, now our second annual Deck the Doors contest. We have 4 categories. We did most creative, most traditional, most festive, and holly jolly. So the first winner we have was for most creative, and that was Copper Cricket. And I don't think anyone is here to get their award. So, but we would like to thank them. They incorporated the theme of their store along with the holiday, and it was a really great display. Next, we had most traditional, which is details for the home. So come on up. It was great. It was just a classic. See, that's the best part. Now you do. Thank you. Then we had most festive was from Cupcake Heaven. No one's here. They did a great display with the little candy canes and everything going up to the door. That was great. And finally, we have the Holly Jolly Award, which was Oh So Persnickety. That little strip of buildings gave everyone a run for their money. Thank you very much for everyone who participated. Start working on next year.
I'll bring it up on our thing here. Next item on our agenda is our presentation of a check. We were hoping that they would be able to come, but it looks like, in looking in the audience, that no one's here from Serve, our Willing Warriors, correct? But we were able to collect this year during our Christmas celebration. We sold s'mores kits to the kids, and we're able to collect actually a total of $314.64 for their organization there. We've been doing that annually, and it's, I think, if you don't or have never visited their facility up there, it's an awesome thing that they're doing for our wounded, giving a retreat, usually up to a week, at no cost to the family, to enjoy being just away from the hospital settings. John and Shirley Dominic spearhead this organization, which is doing a great job at it. So we want to thank them, and hopefully we'll get their check right to them. All right. Our next item, just wanted to switch things around. So we're going to go with our Officer Down Memorial Ride presentation. You've got that ready?
I think I'm getting played with here.
Okay, just a little bit more.
Good evening. Again, my name is Sean Landry. I'm here in support of the QBE Foundation that is hosting ODMR. Before I get into the logistics of what we're doing in the event, I want to invite up Chris and Meg. Chris is going to talk about ODMP, and then Meg's going to talk about ODMR as a function, and then Corey and I are going to talk about the event and the day. So first I'd like to invite Chris.
Good evening. My name is Chris Cosgriff. First, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight and the opportunity to talk about our country's fallen law enforcement officers. I'm the founder and the executive director of the Officer Down Memorial Page, which is a national nonprofit organization dedicated to honoring fallen law enforcement officers from across the country. It was founded in 1996, so in January 96, it's just turning 23 years old today. The memorial organization is an online memorial to more than 23,000 police officers who've been killed in the line of duty back to 1791, and almost 1,000 police canines that have been killed in the line of duty as well. We're completely funded by our two events, one of which is the Officer Down Memorial Ride. This will be the 8th event. The other event is the National Police Week 5K, which is held in Washington, D.C. in May. In addition to the two events, it's also funded through donations from people around the country. But we are a local organization. We're based in Fairfax, Virginia. In addition to my work with Officer Down Memorial Page, I'm a police officer with the County of Fairfax as well. Meg Hawkins started the Officer Down Memorial Ride as a fundraiser for us 8 years ago. It's been extremely successful. In the past, it's been held at the Lion and Bull just outside the town limits here. But we wanted an opportunity to make it more of a community event, more walkable and available to people within the community, which, although it's held in a shopping center, it's accessible, but it wasn't really that small town community event that we hope to get the feeling with having people come out and honor the fallen officers and spend a day recognizing their sacrifices and learning about them. I'm going to let Meg talk a little bit more about the ride itself, and I'm, of course, happy to answer any questions about the organization or the ride as well.
Good evening. My name is Meg Hawkins, and I'm the founder and chief organizer of the Officer Down Memorial Ride that benefits the Officer Down Memorial Page. In 2010, I met Chris at a police honor guard seminar. I was a member of our honor guard, and for our local department, I also work for Fairfax County for many years, and I have attended numerous line of duty funerals, which are tragic. After hearing him speak about ODMP, I knew immediately that I wanted to get involved, and he really had no choice. I wanted to do something to honor my fallen brothers and sisters and to keep their memories alive. I proposed a motorcycle ride. Chris is not a biker, and he kind of looked at me and said, okay. And I said, please, just give me a second, I'll explain, and once you see the first year, you'll understand what I'm talking about. He's probably never attended a motorcycle event, never been on a motorcycle, period. He rides a bicycle, so I'll give him that. And he was a little curious on how it would go. So, and many people do have negative feelings and thoughts about bikers, but I'm here to tell you that perceptions are not always reality. Bikers have the biggest hearts and are always supporting amazing causes and events and charities. In 2011, the Officer Down Memorial Ride was born. Over 300 riders and participants showed up at Lion and Bull, which is pretty outstanding for a first inaugural ride. And I believe we raised over $8,000 in one day. This is our 8th Officer Down Memorial Ride, and it will take place on Saturday, April 27th. It is an all-day event, and it is centered around a 60-mile motorcycle ride featuring live music, food, raffles, inflatables for kids, that's new, vendors, and a motor unit demonstration by local police departments. The event is held to raise awareness of law enforcement, line of duty deaths, and other facets of ODMP. Since its inception, ODMR has grown every single year, and in the last few years, ODMR has attracted over 1,000 participants and riders and raised over $200,000 for the Officer Down Memorial Page. ODMR is the only fundraiser where all the proceeds go to ODMP. The 5K also supports, that he talks about, Concerns of Police Survivors, which is also another amazing organization. Last year alone, at the last ODMR, we raised $57,000 for this amazing charity. I appreciate your time, and thank you.
Thank you.
So, I mean, we couldn't be more honored to, I think, host this awesome event in our town, and you know, I'm excited and actually a little humbled to champion this. My part that I'd like to cover on the event is 2 weeks before the event, we're going to stand up a memorial garden. You can see right here along the street, display the banners and a number of crosses that represent our first responders. We'll also stand up the garrison flag that I have, the first responders garrison flag behind it. And we'll have some material so people can go and honor those people, our first responders. So that'll be stood up 2 weeks before the event, and we believe it'll probably trail the event a little bit to make sure the community has time to pay their respects.
Good evening. I'm Guarino. Everybody knows me here. I'm one of the officers here in town. Working with QBE and some of our past events through town, when I found out from Meg and Chris that we had this opportunity to bring this ride to town, I jumped on it immediately. As you can see, we're keeping everything to the QBE property itself at 14600 Washington Street. All the parking is going to be to the rear facility. There's going to be 0 road closures. It is an unescorted ride, so no road closure whatsoever. It's not going to affect any additional traffic except for just the amount of bikes that are going to be going out. That may affect it for about 5 or 10 minutes. Parking is going to be on hand. There's going to be probably between 12 and 20 members of the staff that's actually going to help with the parking, bringing people off the street, parking the motorcycles, parking the public cars. The State Farm complex that's just east of us, down here, where Mr. Landry's pointing, they've happily donated their parking lot as overflow. So that keeps the people out of the residential neighborhoods and stuff like that. So we have additional parking and everything. As you can see, like Meg spoke earlier, we have a kids area coming this year for the kids zone. We are surrounded by numerous communities. Definitely it's going to bring the families out. So we want to make sure the kids have something that's going to keep them entertained. There's going to be food trucks available on site. Everything's going to be along Blight onto the grass area that's still contained inside QB property, so not on Blight Drive. Biggest thing here, it's a town event, town community come out. We're going to be hiring back 4 Haymarket police officers to help us work this event. For traffic control, for security details inside. The beer garden is going to be sponsored by the QB Foundation. They're doing everything they need to do there for security and also checking IDs and wristbands just like we do during Haymarket Day. But it's going to be a great event. I mean, we're expecting, oh yeah, the stage is going to be just to the side. There's going to be live music all day long. The motor demonstration, as you can see, is in the parking lot. So it'll have plenty of motorcycle parking here, motorcycle parking around the building, and then overflow. We're expecting on a good weather day, probably 1,000 plus motorcycles and probably 2,000 plus people. So it's going to be big. It's really going to bring the community together. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that has to do with the site and security plan for this. I'll be working closely with Sergeant Shaver to make sure that the Haymarket Police Department is up to date on everything that we're doing. So does anybody have any questions regarding site safety for this?
Mr. Mayor, I don't have a question. I've been intimately involved with this ride. Most people think Megan's my daughter. She's not my biological daughter, but she's my daughter. I'm the one who got her interested in motorcycles. So I've been a big part of this ride from the start. This year's going to be special. We just had my wife's cousin who was killed in the line of duty night before last in Orem, Utah. So he'll be honored here along with others that have been killed in the line of duty. This ride, I want to point out something that Meg said. Most of y'all know that I ride a Harley and have been riding for 50 years, 50-something years. This ride is so touching, and the reason why I'm so glad we're having it here this year is because it gives our communities a chance to come out and participate. We had a meeting the other night, and I made the comment I wouldn't be surprised if 3,000 people show up, not 3,000 motorcycles, but 3,000 people. Because of this, our walk in town, Green Hill Crossing and the other subdivisions, I think people will ride over or walk over. I think they'll participate, especially what's major this year, a big change, is the fact that we're going to have the area for the children so they can come over and play as well. At the meeting the other night, we talked, there's a lot of logistics in this, but I can tell you every I will be dotted, every T will be crossed. And this event will do this town proud. And as a rider and help organize it there, I can't wait. I'm excited for this event. It's a rain or shine. This year it's going to be shiny, just like it was last year. Hopefully, If the pastor's still here, I'd ask him to pray with us. But I'm excited about this event, and personally can't wait to participate in it. So that's all I have.
All right. Any other questions?
What's the date?
April 27th.
I'll walk over and get you, and you can come up with us. We use you as a volunteer.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We really look forward to this. This is great to have it in our town. Absolutely. Yep. Look forward to
Thanks,
that.
guys. Thank you.
Yeah, we could actually probably advertise this in our town website too.
Be awesome.
Yep.
That'd be
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yep.
And we will have signs, signboards up indicating that it's a motorcycle ride, motorcycle event, to drive safely. And just for everyone's information, we have various events, but then the riders will be leaving between 9 and 10:30. Most of them leave between 9 and 9:30. It's not an escorted ride. And from here, they'll be leaving straight down 55, going straight out 55, all the way toward the plains. So traffic-wise, if there's concerns about traffic, you need to be unconcerned, because they'll be, even though they'll stop the traffic with just the bikes coming out to get on the road, the bikers, they will go through, they will drive respectfully, they will do 25 miles an hour till they get out of town. And it's just a great event, so
It's great.
I'm looking forward to it.
Great. All right. Super. So our next item on our agenda is the Mayor's Volunteer of the Year Awards. And I'm going to go up here to the podium to get closer. See if I can get mic'd up here. This year, this is the second year that I've done this, to highlight volunteers that have lived in our town, and to recognize them for the volunteer work that they do. And this year, the Dominion Women's Club, or DWC as we know them, support to the town of Haymarket for this past year has been outstanding. First, let me tell you something about the wonderful group of ladies. They were chartered in 2007, so this will be their 12th year of service. They are part of the National Women's Club organization, the General Federation of Women's Clubs. Both the national and our own DWC's organization's mission is to improve the community by enhancing the lives of others through their volunteer service and charitable donations. And in doing so, the women improve their skills, expand their rights, and apply their abilities and special sensitivity to the problems of our community, our nation, and our world. Best of all, their efforts have supported our town, our town's people, and the institutions we believe that will make us all better individuals. This past year, DWC's volunteers, under the superb leadership of the presidents Susan and Savory and Celeste Corrigan and Martha Feeney, apologies, have been involved in many of the programs. Just some of the efforts include the direct support of Carry to Full Term, the Gravely Elementary School, Haymarket Elementary School, the Pace School. They also donate and volunteer at the Haymarket Regional Food Pantry, and they take care of the garden around the town of Haymarket sign, as well as being active participant in Haymarket Day. They promote the awareness of domestic abuse by putting up the pinwheel garden at the Haymarket Museum, and they knit scarves for the homeless at the Needles in the Haymarket. Every quarter, they make a homemade baked goods and distribute them to all of our local first responders, our police department, our fire departments, to the hospital and emergency room. They support Friends of the Haymarket Gainesville Library, and they award scholarships to deserving young women graduating from Battlefield High School. They've actually also decorated the town council chamber this year. So what else does this translate to? In 2018, the GWWC Women's Club donated over $15,000 in these local charities and supported over 65 projects with over 7,000 volunteer hours. For that, we thank you.
Shelley, do you want to be in the picture?
Shelley needs to get in the picture.
What about-
I also have another award here. I don't have a written speech, but I wanted to at least acknowledge actually two individuals. Ms. Susanna and Corey, could you please come up here? So this couple, for the last, I think, probably 5 or 6 years, have taken their volunteer time to, for Thanksgiving and for Christmas holidays, volunteered and made dinners that took to the Western Station, and I think even reached out to the Central Station, as well as dispatch, making their dinners for those people that have to work on those 2 days, as well as giving up many hours of his time to the town. I give you this, to both of you all. Thank you all. Appreciate it sincerely. All right. I think what we're going to do is just take a brief, like 5-minute recess here, and we'll come back and meet maybe at 5 minutes till the hour. Thank you. Back. Thank you all for that brief pause there. Our next item on our agenda is our minutes of approval. We have our work session from December 3rd for 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. We're on page 4 and 5 of our packet. There is one correction that I think I saw, is the amount of attendees for Ethan's presentation. I think for some reason we had 200. We need to add a 0 per the chief to 2,000 attendees. He actually did a Google map search, and we actually were looking at over 3,000 by the Google but we took the stage out and estimate over 2,000 people attended. So with that correction, I'll entertain a motion for either one or both.
Mr. Mayor, I would move for approval for the work session minutes for Monday, December 3rd, 2018.
Okay, motion on the floor
Second.
by Councilman Leak. Discussion on the motion.
That was for the regular though, right?
Yeah, that was work session.
That was work session.
But your 2,000 was for, is that regular or work?
I think it was wherever it was listed. I think it was on the work, correct, not the work session, but the regular meeting.
Yeah.
Correct, yep.
There's no corrections to the work session.
No.
No, yep. All right, discussion on the motion. If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain?
I'm going to abstain.
Abstain.
Okay, we have 2 abstentions. Okay, any reason for the abstention?
You
Or
weren't
no?
there.
Okay, all right, that's fine. And our next one would be for a regular meeting.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve our regular scheduled meeting December 3rd, 2018 minutes.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Shannon. Any discussion on this motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstain? Motion carried unanimously. Our next item is our department reports. We have our police department. Chief Lands, how are you, sir?
I'm well.
Great, good to hear.
Good evening. I know you guys have a full agenda, so I will try to be brief. Anybody have any questions on the statistics for the month?
And that's on page 10 of our packet. If you,
Okay, just a couple points of interest to talk about. Of course, we had Ethan swearing in. What we did was we took the square footage. Corey and I went out and measured the square footage of what the drone picture showed, and then plugged it into Google, who has a crowd estimator, and that's where we came up with that number. So give or take. But what we found out was you can put 70 people in one parking spot if they're front to back, just like everybody was, just kind of stacked up on top of each other. So we just kind of took 50 instead of 70 and times it, and it was a lot of people there. So, and we really appreciate it. It was awesome for the family. And then just after that, we assisted the Sweet Julia Grace Foundation in escorting Santa and the carolers to Ethan and his family's house for Christmas. They got a lot of stuff. They were very thankful for that. We plan on partnering with the Sweet Julia Grace Foundation a lot. We did with them last year as well, and also this year. Just this past weekend, we had our police department end-of-year awards banquet, where I'd like to report to you that Officer John Gregory was awarded the Officer of the Year award. He had the highest number of DUI and criminal arrests. I think everybody can tell on the rundown when John is working. There's about 20 things underneath the night shift. And then every year I also give an award to an officer who has gone above and beyond and impressed me throughout the entire year. And this year I awarded it to Sergeant Shaver. He really has come into his own this year as a supervisor. Last year he was just kind of learning, and this year he really has stepped up, handled a lot of projects for the department, and done a great job with it. So, and then that brings me to New Year's Eve. We had, 4 officers and 1 council member out this year on New Year's Eve. I just want to report that we did have a lot of arrests and tickets, but our main thing was Officer Gregory stopped a vehicle that had a mobile meth lab in it. We ended up having to shut down Washington Street right at Fayette and call the state police and Prince William in and decontaminate everything, make sure that no one was contaminated, and that we got everything processed correctly. This is a big deal. A rolling meth lab is basically a rolling bomb that can go off at any time. We're seeing a lot more of it now, and in the West End particularly. Corey is working with John and with several Prince William units who have found some more of this in the western end of the county, and it's all within probably 5 miles of the town. So this isn't, not this little small quaint town. We still have big things going on, and a mobile bomb driving right through our town. So I credit Officer Gregory for being vigilant and catching that just on a speeding summons. People say, you guys are pulling people all the time. It's a speed trap. Well, I tell you, number one, there's worse things for the town to be known for than you should slow down when you go through it. And number two, small infractions lead to discoveries of big crimes. So we're working with Prince William now to try to put an end to this. We feel like they're all related. Also a couple of other cases that we feel are in this as well that we can put all together. So just let you know that. I know we had a full agenda this month. I'll go next month into what we did for last year, what we're going to do for the upcoming year. We got a lot of good things planned, and we had a great, successful 2018, the police department did. We got a lot of stuff done, and we touched a lot of people. So I'm open for any questions.
Questions from the dice? No, sir. Looks like you go out clean tonight. All right. Thank you. All right. Next department report, our admin staff. Jerry? Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Our reports are never as exciting as the chief's. So.
Yeah, no rolling meth labs.
And I have to say that December was, and by the way, it's December 18, not 17, as the report indicated. But it was a fun month. It was a very, December with the holidays is always a good month. But we just did so many great things with decorating the office, the event we had at the beginning of the month. So many people coming in and just and it's just it's a nice time of the year. The ornaments that the staff were a big success. We sold them all, and continue to get requests for them even after they were all sold. So it's a very popular thing, and I think it's going to be something we're going to be doing next year as well. Same way with, we closed out the banners, and we sold a total of 40 banners, the veteran banners, so we still have some requests for those as well. So they're both very successful. I don't know if the council's noticed it or not, but I think we have a more prominent presence on social media now, thanks to the admin assistant and the remainder of the staff. We're getting a lot of hits on our Facebook page and on the town websites. I think it's improved. We've got the information more timely now, getting it up in a more timely fashion. We also are putting together an email list so that residents that want to be advised of current issues we can email it out to them off the website, which I think is very beneficial. And we look to maybe expand on that as well, and to maybe moving it into like a constant contact or something that we can do a little more regular. The newsletters, of course, are popular, and we want to do more of that. If we can do it media rather than paper, it makes it a lot easier, and we can do it a lot more frequently and get more information out on a quicker in a quicker manner. The rest of the report, the finance report and planning and zoning, Emily and Roberto are here if you need any questions. We've included their reports, as long as the specific reports from the town engineer, as well as the building permit reports. Just a couple of things on the park. Aside from the playground, we're working on some issues to mitigate the septic tank that's there. We're working to get that removed and get that contained. I think we're going to be able to do that very, very reasonably. Also have an opportunity to use some of the Prince William Manassas Adult Detention Center workforce to maybe do some painting with the house down there, not on the exterior but the interior, and do some repairs to the interior of that. As you know, they're the ones that did some work for us this past summer, and it's at no charge to the town other than the materials, and maybe buy the guys a pizza every once in a while. So it's pretty reasonable. But unless there are any questions, that's all I have this evening.
Okay. Questions from the dais? All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, our next item is our citizens' time. We'll see if anyone has anything to say before our agenda items.
Dottie Leonard, 14801 Washington Street. I didn't get a chance to comment on Haymarket Day. It was truly an exceptional Haymarket Day. I only would stress that we still need to do more crafters, and I promise to work diligently on that this coming year to assist. I got too sick and couldn't do it. Also, there was one issue about closing the town as early as 6 a.m. and not allowing any exceptions. I have a handicapped senior who comes to Haymarket Day every single year and has for 10 or 15 years, who couldn't get in, and the chief offered to go pick her up in a golf cart, but she couldn't even get in a golf cart. So she had to be turned away. So I hope we do something about that to allow some exception. All they would need to do is come in at that eastern end of town and make it to my driveway, and she could still come and enjoy Haymarket Day. I still thought it was an exceptional Haymarket Day. I would have liked to have seen less alcoholic events, but it went over well, and people who stopped in my yard said they couldn't wait to get up there to it. So they left me to go up to have a drink.
Oh.
So, but I also wanted to call attention to our police department. I'm thrilled that we're going to honor the policemen that have fallen through the motorcycle event. I'm thrilled about it. I would even go out there and serve coffee or something, whatever I could do. It's really something that's important to me. And I wanted to thank our chief for the event he had. When I got home, I saw it on the news, and I thought, wow, brought tears to my eyes to think. We get teary and upset over and emotional over people who've been gone for 100 years, but here was a young man that we were able to call attention to, and the whole town poured out, and people who weren't even part of the town came out, and we actually had some beautiful, touching publicity over that. And I, for one, where is he? I salute you. That was so awesome. And I said if we could spend a little more time doing good instead of hurting people on purpose. Some of our energy and our newspaper ads and our media stuff is just plain ugly. And I thought that was totally beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment there. Anyone else for citizens' time? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to our agenda items. Our first item is actually the SUP 2018009 has been pulled. We're going to be bringing that back at the applicant's request on next month for the McDonald's second drive-through lane, which brings us up to ZTA 2018-001, the funeral home crematory definitions. So. And we are on page 39 of our packet there. Oh, yeah, that would be helpful.
Thank you.
One second. So tonight, council, you have before you the zoning text amendment application submitted for adding the crematory definition to the zoning ordinance, as well as changing the funeral home definition so that it reflects the addition of crematory. If you look at page 47 of your packet, you'll have the justification statement here, but further in the packet on page, page 39. You will have the original proposed here at the beginning for the crematory, an establishment containing a furnace for the purpose of reducing dead bodies to ashes by burning, and then the alteration to funeral home to add establishments engaged in undertaking services such as preparing the dead for burial, as well as related accessory activities, including a crematory, that's the addition, and arranging and managing funerals. Typical uses include funeral homes or mortuaries. If you flip to page 41, however, I would like to call out the bolded text here in the second paragraph on this page. So when we were having this discussion with the Planning Commission, some of the commissioners were concerned with if we allow this crematory to come in, they open a funeral home by special use permit, can they just go in and open up a crematory as an accessory use without pulling a specific SUP? We had some lengthy discussion on that within the Planning Commission, and this is the newly proposed definition here before you tonight. Crematory, an establishment containing a furnace for the purpose of reducing dead human bodies to ashes by burning, and funeral home, establishments engaged in undertaking services such as preparing the dead for burial, as well as related secondary accessory activities such as a crematory, if allowed by SUP, and arranging and managing funerals. Typical uses include funeral home or mortuaries. This clarifies better the definition, stating that you would still need a SUP for a crematory, and it is only accessory and a secondary use. Are there any questions to this definition?
You need a separate SUP or one SUP?
So in this instance, you can have the one for the funeral home, and you add in that, it's clearly stated in that SUP that a crematory would be there. We wanted to make it so that if they open a funeral home by one SUP, they can come back at a later date, and they still have to do an SUP for a crematory. So in effect, you could have two separate
So in
SUPs.
effect, if this were approved, they would have to reapply for their SUP because currently the crematory is not applied for. Is that, no?
One moment. I believe in the SUP,
Was it?
the way we
Worded it?
the way it was worded was that if the zoning text amendment, as proposed here on page 41, were to go through tonight, then the SUP has the crematory included in the plan. If this zoning text amendment does not go through tonight, the SUP will be amended in effect to only be for the funeral home, removing the crematory use.
Okay, thank you.
Did the applicant want to?
Yes.
Speak on?
If you guys don't
sure.
have any further questions for me, I'm happy to invite the applicant up.
I've done a lot of research on this, and I had two primary questions that was addressed at the Planning Commission. Number one, I wanted to make sure that they would not be doing cremations for other funeral homes and stuff. And Mr. Church said, no, definitely not. It would be for the folks that are serviced at their funeral home. That was an issue. And the other thing that the concern I've heard from some citizens is that, there's nothing, no smokestack there that's emitting anything. The only people that know that a cremation is actually going on are the workers there and maybe the family. I don't know if the families request to be there during the time, I don't know. Otherwise, walking by there, you have no idea what's going on in there, none. So with my research and everything, I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I will invite the applicant up to speak for it.
I have a question about a parking lot, parking space. Is it enough?
That
Yeah,
would
but
fall under the SUP application. This
Yeah,
is
but
right
this-
now just for the definition.
Oh, okay.
To add crematory.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Emily on what she's spoken about so far?
Not at this time.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and have the
I'll invite-
applicant speak.
Okay, I'll
Sure.
invite the applicant and his attorney, Gifford Hampshire, up to speak.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council, Mr. Town Attorney. I'm Gifford Hampshire of the law firm of Blankenship and Keith. I represent the applicant. And with me is our team, not only Michael Turch, who is the managing partner of the enterprise, but we also have Monica Hawkins, who is our civil engineer tonight. And as we did with the Planning Commission, we also have Jeffrey Barron here, who's the representative from Matthews International, which is the manufacturer of the cremation equipment. We had Mr. Barron here before the Planning Commission as well, and you may have questions such as the Planning Commission had, but we're hoping to answer those maybe even before you answer them. But we have a good team here tonight. I don't have a lot to add on the zoning text amendment. I just want to emphasize what Ms. Lockhart said, and that is, and in reference to Mr. Weir's remark in the public hearing aspect that perhaps this is being rushed through, I just want to emphasize that the zoning text amendment was a matter of great study before the Planning Commission. We came before the Planning Commission on October 29. The Planning Commission held a full public hearing there, a lot of questions, and at the end of that hearing directed the town planner, as reflected in the staff report, to go and do some research on what other towns did as far as performance standards. And we came back again on November 19. The town planner gave that report. The Planning Commission had more questions, and it was only after all those questions were answered that a recommendation was made by the Planning Commission. So as reflected in the staff report, this zoning text amendment has been studied in a deliberative manner, and the Planning Commission took its time and with its recommendation. And that is reflected in the text of the zoning text amendment itself. As Ms. Lockhart alluded, if you look on page 41, you will see the recommendation that came out of all of that study. And what is significant about this language is 4 words, I think, most significant anyway, if allowed by SUP. And again, as Ms. Lockhart said, the Planning Commission was justifiably concerned that you might have a situation where if under the old language, the language as originally proposed, if you had a funeral home, you automatically had a crematory. This language was set forth to specifically address that concern, that you have to have an SUP. And that also addresses another buzzword, if you will, that Mr. Weir used in his comments, spot zoning. As the town attorney knows, spot zoning is a loaded term, but it has a very particular and very narrow meaning in the jurisdiction or the jurisprudence of the Commonwealth. And that is zoning that is tailored to a specific applicant, that only that applicant really could meet. And this is just the opposite, because we have a zoning text amendment here that specifically says that you have to have a special use permit for each and every crematory that might be proposed in the town. And by definition, a special use permit is deliberated on individually and with respect to the particular attributes and detriments of any particular application. So anyone could potentially meet this definition. And I would suggest to you that the applicant should not be penalized simply because of market reasons that perhaps the town might not be able to support more than one funeral home. I don't know whether that's true or not, but that doesn't mean that it's spot zoning. But the overall point I want to make is that this is a studied zoning text amendment. It's not being rushed. It makes a lot of sense, and it's also worth noting that it is in response to what you see on page 48 of your packet, where the town planner issued a zoning determination to the applicant saying that we need a zoning text amendment in order to pursue the special use permit for the crematory. And that's why we're here. So I'm ready to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. I think what we'll do is we'll have a chance to ask questions, and then once we have a follow-up from the town, then internally we'll discuss these things and then have them available to ask questions. But while we deliberate, it would be an invitation only that we proceed that way. So
I have no questions.
Okay. So
No question with regards to the ZTA.
okay.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Church would like to say a few words if that's
Sure.
okay.
Absolutely. Uh-huh. Yep.
I'll be very brief. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name's Michael Church. I'm one of the owners of Mount Castle Church Life Celebration Home, and I'm behind the zoning text amendment. And the reason for the zoning text amendment to include a crematory as a secondary use is families want to know 3 things. Where does it happen? Can I see where it happens? How do I know these are my loved one's ashes? And so being able to have that on site will enable us to take the family and answer those questions. They can see the equipment, they can see where it happens, and thus assuring them that this is their loved ones.
Okay. All right. Any further questions as we go around the dice here? If not, we'll go ahead and. Nope.
No, sir.
Any further follow-up, Ms. Emily?
I would just like to follow up, going off of my recommendation for the zoning text amendment. I am in support of the zoning text amendment as it will better clarify and add a definition to our ordinance and better prepare us for any applications that would come before us for a funeral home and any other accessory uses.
One question I did have regarding that, we did hear from public comment that it appears that other towns, do we have any information that would be contrary to that information that was given tonight as far as other localities prohibiting those?
At this time, I do not. When I looked into the studies, I looked at Leesburg and Warrenton. These were the places that included crematory in their definitions. They clearly stated it and how they allow it, as well as any additional requirements they have, such as performance standards. But Leesburg was the only one that really had performance standards. I know there was some question that the person who spoke about that said that it was just towns, and there was some question on Manassas has crematories, but that is considered a city, so just to clarify that. But
And just to clarify, this wording is not currently in ours, so this is something we're adding to.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And I'm not so sure that, I understood what Mr. Weir said, but at the same time, just because some of them may not have them doesn't mean they haven't been requested.
Correct. No, absolutely.
And
I just wanted to clarify.
That doesn't
if there
hold
was-
water with me.
Sure. Is that information, if we had anything contrary to that?
Well, Mayor,
Okay.
unless you had specified for Ms. Lockhart to look into that
No.
in regards to prohibition, I don't think that she would have done that. I think the planning commission had asked her to look into what other towns had this, so unless she was directed otherwise, I don't think she would have that information.
No, I understand. It's just there was new comments that we heard tonight. I just wanted to see if we had anything contrary to that. Okay. With that, I open the dais for discussion there. We have this in front of us. We've heard from the citizens. We've heard from businesses. We also, actually, for the record, there was one thing that I was to read in the minutes. This is from an email that came in at 8 o'clock this morning regarding from a Pepper, last name is pronounced Grinmolds. Hi, my name is Pepper Marie Duckett, a resident of the town, or excuse me, it just says a resident of Haymarket. I'm writing because I cannot make it to the meeting on Monday, January 8th. Would, however, like the town council to know that I am a supporter of Michael Turk, and he will be a great neighbor. We also need to note that he will be a great asset to our community. Thank you. So just for the record, I wanted to read that in there. Okay, so I open the dais for discussion or comments, or if you all obviously have done a lot of research on this as we've listened to, I don't know if anyone, the planning commission meetings, the public comments from those meetings, as well as from our citizens as this has kind of developed over the last few months. But any discussion that they would like to as I go around the dais?
I have
Mr.
nothing
Shane?
further to discuss. No other questions.
All right.
No,
Councilman
Mayor,
Lee?
just to make sure to clarify your statement, sounding like this is talking in regards to the SUP, this is talking about a zoning text amendment, which is changing our specifically our ordinance. By passing the zoning text amendment, it does not mean that the SUP is then go ahead and being granted. So this is strictly just the.
Good clarification. Thank you for that.
Just want to make sure that was clarified.
Strictly
Yeah.
just to add it to the definitions
Correct.
in our
In our zoning ordinance.
Right, correct. Okay. Mr. Panthy, any comments? Ms. Edwards, Ms. Bond, Cavasso, Mr. Day, any questions? Okay.
I am ready to make a motion. unless
Okay,
someone
then
else
that
has-
was going to be my next question. We can move forward with this if everybody feels comfortable, if they need more time to digest what we've heard tonight. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion from the floor.
Okay. I move the town council approve ZTA number 2018-001 to add the crematory definition to the town code. Should I read it, Emily?
Yes, please, for clarification.
Crematory, an establishment containing a furnace for the purpose of reducing dead human bodies to ashes by burning, and funeral home, establishments engaged in undertaking services such as preparing the dead for burial, as well as related secondary accessory activities such as a crematory if allowed by SUP, and arranging and managing funerals. Typical uses include funeral home or mortuaries.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve.
I second.
Seconded by Councilman Shannon. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, Ms. Shelley, roll call vote, please.
Shannon?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Panthy?
Yes.
Edwards?
yes.
Cavazos?
Yes.
Day?
Yes.
Okay. Our next item on the agenda is our SUP 2018-1014901 Washington Street for the funeral home and crematory special use permit. Ms. Emily, I'll let you first speak on that and then turn it over to the applicant the same way.
Thank you. We're on packet page 54. You'll have my staff report complete with an update from the Planning Commission discussion that we recently had there in December. So this is a special use permit for a funeral home to be located at 14901 Washington Street. Formerly, the BB&T Bank was operated out of this location. The SUP application includes the accessory use of a crematory at the site. You'll have the application summary here. I'm happy to answer any questions. When I was going through the analysis of impacts based on our town code, we look at 6 different items. These are on the bottom of page 54 in a bullet format, and I've addressed each one individually throughout the report. The B1 district is predominantly known as our neighborhood town center. We look to provide convenience here, businesses that are geared towards our residents and allow for walkability. This is here in our town core area, so that's mentioned at the bottom of page 55 as well as into the next page. Some of the other concerns that were raised during this analysis were the traffic on site as well as not just on the site in the parking lot here that you'll see on the presentation screen, but also getting from Washington Street into the site and getting back out onto Washington Street following a service. This is something that the Planning Commission discussed in detail with the applicant. I discussed in detail with the applicant, and they feel that what you have before you tonight on the proposed site plan is an adequate manner to address any traffic concerns by rerouting the flow of traffic. Another concern was the parking on site. Our town code currently calls for 1 parking space for every 4 seats in this type of facility. So they're proposing to have 37 parking spaces on the site. Currently, there's roughly 30, and they will be adding an additional 7 along the northwestern side of the site there that meets up with the other parking lot. There was some discussion on, is this enough parking? It's just 37. We, I think, tend to think and have this image of when you go to a funeral, there's a lot of cars. It can sometimes be hectic with traffic. The applicant has stated that most of the time people aren't driving by themselves. They want to be with others during this time. They'll drive together. So there is room for discussion there on traffic and parking and if it's an adequate amount. They also have a backup plan to address as well with a shared parking agreement with surrounding business owners. And there was also discussion on the environmental aspects of it. I will say for the record that the Planning Commission gave a full list of questions and concerns they had environmentally, and the applicant did their due diligence. They contacted the right people and they provided the studies and all of the documents. Those are all here in your packet, and they have someone here tonight to address any additional concerns. But in general, the environmental aspect, the Planning Commission did not find that it was of concern. There weren't going to be a lot of air emissions, and there was not a lot of concern for water, not emission, pollutants going into the water source. And also the Planning Commission, we had discussed at our last meeting, I proposed we listen at the public hearing to any comments, concerns that the citizens brought about that evening. However, we only had three citizens come and speak, 2 of which were in support, and 1 resident was opposed due to this business was not a walkable business in the town core. So with that, the commission discussed in detail their concerns, additional information that came up, and they decided to go ahead and act on it. They felt that they were prepared. And I will state that Commissioner Polari brought up at that meeting discussion on the real estate home values, and Chairman Cottle also made some comments to that and how he felt, but in the end they decided to go ahead and vote for a recommendation of approval to Town Council.
And that vote was?
Shelley, correct me if I'm wrong.
3-1.
Was everybody there?
Yep.
So it was 3-1.
3 in favor, 1 opposed.
Yes,
All right.
one was opposed and one was absent.
Okay. Questions to Ms. Emily regarding what she has stated? If not, then okay, then we'll invite the applicant
So
up
we'll
to.
invite the applicant up to discuss any of your concerns. I would like to request that the applicant, as we did with Planning Commission, address the traffic, parking, and environmental.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the Town Council, I'm Gifford Hampshire, Blankenship, and Keith. And for the record, let me reintroduce our team. Michael Turch, who's the managing partner of Turch, and Monica Hawkins from Walter Phillips, who's our civil engineer, and Jeffrey Barron from Matthews International, the manufacturer of the cremation equipment. And as we get into this, if you may have questions that would be better addressed to them. I just want to say that we started this journey last summer. Mr. Turch purchased this property, and we sought and received the zoning determination that I referenced in the package. And in response to that, as we just heard in the zoning text amendment hearing, we pursued the zoning text amendment that the Planning Commission heard both on October 29 and November 19. At the end of the November 19 hearing, the Planning Commission was quite clear that it wanted to hear in the forthcoming Planning Commission hearing on the zoning text amendment technical details about how this equipment works and information on the impacts of that equipment and the operation, for that matter, of a crematory. And that was a fair and legitimate question. So we went back, we contacted Mr. Barron from Matthews International, and we provided the Planning Commission prior to the December 17 meeting with the same information you have in your package that answers commonly asked questions and provides some information on the impacts, environmental and otherwise, of the cremation process. It's important to keep in mind that cremation is becoming a more and more popular service for funerals. Mr. Turch tells me about 40% these days of his business is through cremation as opposed to burial. And that makes sense as we begin to run out of land. It's also a very relatively economical option for families. It's especially important, as Mr. Turch said, to be able to offer that increasingly popular and cost-effective service in the same building so that the family can have some assurance of where the cremation is taking place and who is doing it, and they can be assured that those are the remains of their loved one. It's important also to keep in mind that the cremation, being a component of a funeral home, reduces vehicle trips. Because if you think about it, if you have a funeral home without a crematory and people come, those 40% come in and want a cremation, then you're going to have a vehicle trip off the property to go to the off-site cremation facility and potentially a vehicle trip back to the funeral home with those ashes, potentially. And so that is a big savings to keep in terms of traffic, to keep things on site. So with that, I'd just like to address some of the traffic concerns. Our very first meeting with Emily and Jerry, we, with Walter Phillips, identified this as an issue that the council and the Planning Commission would be concerned about. There's a hard copy of this over here as well, and I know that you have a reduced copy in your package. But our idea from the very first meeting was based in the sensitivity of the stacking problem on Washington Street. That if people were to come in the entrance on Washington Street for a funeral, you could potentially have stacking up Washington Street while people come. And we thought a better alternative would be to route traffic down Madison Street so that there's a greater stacking distance, if you will, or lack of stacking, so people can get off Washington onto Madison. And then on site, we thought it would be better to have a kind of a one-way traffic pattern. If you come in off of Madison on this direction, you can circulate through the site this way and go out on Washington Street. Or you can come this way and go out Washington Street. But the point being is you're not going to be entering off Washington Street, and you're not going to have internal conflict on site. With respect to parking, one overall point I'd like to make, and that is, if you think about a funeral home as compared to another commercial establishment, like a fast food restaurant or a bank or some other business that's open during the day, this funeral home's parking lot is going to be empty 95% of the time. And so that right there you've got a big savings in congestion. And when it is occupied, as we say in our application, we not only have a sensible way of getting traffic off the main drag, if you will, but we are committed to having on-site assistance by parking attendants to make sure that people get into their spaces and get into the building without conflict. And that's also true for getting off the site to go to a burial, for example. There will be parking attendants to assist people in getting off the site, in addition to the common police escort that would get people to whatever burial there might be. This is a very important component of the exhibit here. This is the tabulation. As Ms. Lockhart was saying, we are overparked by town standards. Based upon a 96-seat capacity, we would be required to have about 24 parking spaces, but according to this tabulation, but we have 37, and we've created some more along this border here with the other parking lot. And as Ms. Lockhart said, we also have an informal arrangement with this owner of this parking lot for overflow use if we need it. But we don't think we're going to need it because, as Ms. Lockhart said, people do not come to funerals generally. There are exceptions, of course, but commonly people come as families for any number of reasons of convenience, but also comfort at that very difficult time. So what Mr. Turch tells me is it's common to have at least 3 people in each vehicle, which makes perfect sense to the town's parking standards. Town's parking standards are perfectly aligned with that. Whoever developed them was probably thinking about that when they developed that parking standard of 1 parking space for 4 seats within the funeral home. So we think we are both overparked. We have a sensible plan to get people off Washington Street. We have a sensible plan on site to keep people from, get them into their parking spaces and keep them from running into each other. A few other components of the site that are worth mentioning. I think if you back up and look at this from 30,000 feet and think about the current use of the site, you have a building that's not going to look any different, really, as you see from the elevations in your package, from the way it looks now. It's going to preserve the colonial architecture of that BB&T Bank building that's important to the town, which is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And the only addition, really, to the building is going to be back here where the former bank drive-through lanes are going to be enclosed to accommodate the crematory and the hearse parking and the employee parking. The view from Washington Street is going to be pretty much the same, and the view from Madison Street is going to be pretty much the same, except that the lanes will be enclosed. The crematory, therefore, will be buffered by the existing building from any view from Washington Street. From this direction, it's also going to be buffered by the existing landscaped island right here. But really, it's not going to look a lot different from the service lanes that are there now. So we think that is perfectly consistent with the town's comprehensive plan, that evidences an intent to reuse buildings in a way that is consistent with the architecture that's desired. With respect to the environmental issues, again, Mr. Barron is here to ask any particular technical questions, but it's a fair summary to say that, as others have said, that when you go by one of these uses, you really don't know, well, you don't know whether it has a crematory or not. The only little indication might be that there might be an exhaust stack, but you will not see any smoke, as the document shows. You won't see any particulate matter coming out. You won't smell anything. You won't hear anything. The noise study that we attached to the report shows that the The decibels of this equipment is about the same as a refrigerator, and at around 47 decibels, and that's on the inside. And that's at the source, much less at the property line. So you're not going to be able to see it, you're not going to be able to hear it, you're not going to be able to smell it. And those really are the impacts that planning commissions and town councils are concerned about: hear, sight, and smell generally, and why you have conditions on particular uses. Again, I think the other thing I need to talk a little bit about is property values, just to address that a little bit, because the Planning Commission was concerned about decline in property values, or at least there was one planning commissioner who was. I do, in addition to land use, I do condemnation work. And I can tell you I work with a lot of appraisers. I've had a couple cases where I've had to ask appraisers, how would you show a decline in property value? It's a very sophisticated paired sales analysis that is ultimately probably not conclusive. For the point that a local well-known appraiser made to me was, in the context of a use similar to this, actually it wasn't, it was with respect to a brewery or a winery that people were complaining about potential decline in property values, is that the issue is whether you have a market for a particular property, not whether a particular user would be disinclined to live in a property next to a particular use. Just like some people like living near schools, some don't. Some people like living near wineries, some don't. Some people like living next to a funeral home and crematory, some don't. The issue is whether there's an overall market for that. And you heard Mr. Weir in his comments say exactly that. Some people might like it, some people might not. Well, that's the definition of a market. And so I don't think we can show that and nor should we be required to show that there will not be a negative impact on property values. And in fact, I think if you look and use common sense and you see in the Dale City establishment, in Herndon, Pierce Funeral Home in Manassas, you will see residential homes right up against crematories, and they wouldn't be there unless there was a market for them. And there's been no evidence of a decline in value. So that's basically all I think I have to say. If you have questions, I'd be glad to answer those, and if I can't answer them, members of our team can. I don't know whether Mr. Turch would you like to make a few comments?
Thank you. Again, I'll try to be brief. A little bit about myself, just so you know. I was born and raised here in Prince William County. I started working for Mount Castle back in 1987. I started off mowing the lawns, washing the cars, and I've literally held every position in the company to now I own the company. Past president of the Virginia Funeral Directors Association, so I take what I do extremely seriously. And we are, by the way, we went through a major name change probably about 8 years ago. We are no longer, I don't like to associate ourselves with a funeral home or a crematory. We're a life celebration home. When you call our establishment, that's how you answer the phone. Mount Castle Church Life Celebration Home. On our business cards, Mount Castle Church Life Celebration Home. Couple of things why I even came out to Haymarket. I have 2 establishments on the east end of the county, and really some of our residents would move out here to look at the mountains, get the fresh air, and I'd get calls occasionally. Hey Michael, Mom died. Really wish you were out this way. Instead they drove over to Warrington or back to Manassas, and that just sort of planted the seed. After receiving quite a few of those phone calls, somebody said, hey, this old building might kind of be right for you. Came out, take a look. I took a look at the building. It's a small building. If I didn't have 2 other facilities to support this, I would not be here. That building's just not right for me. Began looking at sort of the average attendance of funerals and started really paying attention to when people come to celebrate a life, what is it that they're doing? How many people are arriving in a car? How many people are in attendance, kind of what's going on here with this. And just like Giff said, you're absolutely correct. People don't come do these services onesies or twosies. It's usually a family or group event. The average attendance we've experienced is anywhere between 40 and 60 is the average size of a life celebration. Matter of fact, I did a fact check today with Sergeant Humphreys with the Prince William County Sheriff. He's in charge of escorting funerals. And I said, you know, we are required to give a small, medium, or large estimate of the procession. Small is fewer than 10, medium is 11 to 20, and large is 20 or fewer. He said in almost every case, they are medium-sized processions, so 10 to 20 cars. The location I'm proposing here, our service area is going to seat less than 100 people. Part of what we do is, you know, walk families through, hey, is this going to be adequate enough, or is this where we're going to set up the celebration of life? One of the things I do not want is, you know, heaven forbid, because the question has been asked, the Planning Commission did an excellent job, but what happens if you have somebody who's, you know, fireman or, you know, very active in the community? We find other venues. I've been doing this for a long time. I don't want to try to crowd 100, 250 people into a building that's designed for fewer than 100. Reason behind it's hot, nobody can park. There's a line for the restroom, and every celebration I have, I view as an audition. I want people to leave my establishment and think, man, that was great. When my time comes, take me to Michael. As opposed to, holy cow, that was horrible. We couldn't park anywhere. It was hot. I had to wait 20 minutes to use the restroom. That is not what I want. When I first started looking at this building, I met with all the neighbors on Madison Street. Parking was the number one concern. We explained to them we have parking attendants. And what parking attendants do is not only do we show them where to park, but also how to park. And how to park is very important. If you have people backing into a parking space, when you exit, it's a very smooth and fast exit. You don't have people doing 3 and 4 foot turns. For us, it also limits accidents happening on our property. But it's just very, and oftentimes, you know, we get the ladies that, you know, oh, well, would you mind, you know, the group of ladies come and would you mind parking the car for us? Absolutely. It's what we do. It's why I have parking attendants. That to also make sure that people do not park in the street, on other people's lawns, and at other people's parking lots. I did make an agreement with the lot behind me where we have a shared parking agreement. Apparently they throw a couple of events a year, absolutely use our parking lot. In exchange, you know, a couple times a year, I might need to use their parking lot. My neighbors on Madison Street and Madison Court, we're happy with that. I think also the traffic, again, 10 to 20 cars is the average procession. That's 3 minutes maybe. You know, so we're not talking of delaying traffic a great deal. Environmentally, again, just to reiterate, I believe you're absolutely correct. If you did not know what was happening, you would never know. If you walk past, you would never know what happens inside of our buildings. And our buildings are historically some of the nicest kept in the community. We're all about first impressions, so it matters to me. People make that first impression before they even enter our building. So that is extremely important to us, to have a well-upkept facility, and I think we're going to make a terrific neighbor. We will certainly support some of the local businesses here by just some of the people coming to us. In addition to that, I just believe just some of our family activities and how we are neighborly, how my parking lot is empty 90% of the time. That's the nature of my business. Some people have already reached out, hey, can we park on your lot on such? Absolutely. Anytime. So I think it actually helps the town of Haymarket with having one more lot that people can utilize. All they have to do is ask. And, you know, I've never turned a request down to say, no, absolutely not. So in any event, I think I'll be a terrific neighbor here. I'm looking forward to being out here. And thank you very much. Before I go, do you have any questions for me?
On average, how many cremation a month?
How many cremations a month?
Uh-huh.
So,
an average.
Well, cremation is roughly 42% of our business. So I don't know for here, for Haymarket, it's going to be difficult to, number one, get established. So I'm talking probably that first year or two, 80 death calls, 100 death calls. Out of that, 40% of them are going to be cremation. So I use round numbers. So if we say 100, 40 cremations. Now as business kind of continues, hopefully by 10 years, I'm at, about 200, 250 if all goes well. Out of that, again, 42%, so that's 105 cremations.
You're talking about approximately 2 celebrations, life celebrations per week on an average.
Yeah.
for a while. Okay. The other thing, I'm not concerned about traffic. First of all, there wouldn't be a stacking problem. It's not like everybody shows up at once, anyway, to funerals. I was at a funeral last week and just kind of observed, this was out in Front Royal, how people were coming in. There were no issues there. Plus, it wouldn't be a stacking issue because you're going to enter on Madison and come through. But the other thing is, the Planning Commission, one of our commissioners.
I hate to interrupt. Could we maybe just direct questions, and then we'll go around with
Okay, yeah.
with comments?
No, I have no
just want to
questions.
just keep us on track,
Yeah.
and then open our discussion.
Okay.
And then if we have questions for him, if
Yep.
you wouldn't mind. I mean, I don't want to.
No question.
Okay, great. Further questions for,
No question, Mike.
you got questions?
How many, I don't know, they don't call them viewings anymore, visitations, do you typically have per deceased person? Do they do two? I mean, years ago, they did two, like an afternoon and an evening, and, you know.
You are absolutely, and again, the evolution of a life celebration home.
Right.
And the evolution of the death care industry. Years ago, when I first started in 1987, 2 days, 2 times each day. 2 to 4, 7 to 9, 2 to 4, 7 to 9 the next day, then the service the third day. Over time, then it just became 7 to 9, 2 to 4, 7 to 9, and we got rid of 1 day altogether. So long answer to your question, now the trend is a couple hours prior to. You might have a 10 to 12 with the 12 o'clock celebration. Occasionally, you still get, you know, maybe something in the afternoon the day before, but really what's moving towards the trend is we're just kind of, unfortunately for me, but we're just sort of chopping that visitation time down or that celebration time down, and it's an hour, maybe 2 hours prior to.
Okay. Thank you.
Further questions?
How many parking spaces do you have at your other 2 facilities?
I have 28
Each one?
in Woodbridge, and I have 73 in Dale City.
All right.
Further questions? I did have a question. I think you did some research about the town of Haymarket. With your research, did you find any indication about the funeral home?
That there's rumored to be one down, I think a block from my building, Watkins?
Yeah, AC Watts, but
Okay.
but specifically, I think you were looking at from the registry point of view.
I was looking from the registry, however, you have to understand, or I should say, let me please help you understand. Funeral homes back in the 1800s, we didn't have a governing body. So there wasn't a quote-unquote registry of that. As a matter of fact, one point I would like to point out, since I'm talking about the governing body, the Board of Funeral Directors and Embalmers, the Board of Funeral Directors and Embalmers did not specifically start mentioning cremations till about 1994. Prior to that, it just wasn't that common. So in some of these other town ordinances, because it's not there, isn't because it's not allowed. It's just because it hasn't sort of caught up and nobody's come forward for the town to request it.
Understood. But you had no record, I guess, specifically?
With the Virginia Board of Funeral Directors and Embalmers, I did not. With the VFDA, which is Funeral Directors Association, they couldn't confirm, but they couldn't deny. They thought, yes, there was an old firm out there, and then I just went by what all the residents told me. Right. Oh, yeah, that used to be a funeral home there and a carriage. They parked the carriages over here.
Right, okay. Other questions for the applicant?
Average, how much around this area, how much the average you charge, like cremations for the service?
You want to know what my price points are?
Right.
Okay. Well, I can tell you on the east end of the county, for cremation, it's about $3,000 plus merchandise. For full burials, it's about $6,000 plus merchandise.
Okay. Other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
Redirect back to Miss Emily. Any further comments or?
Questions that you guys have for me specifically or staff?
Okay. All right, we're going to bring it around to the dais now. If we should start left from right or right to left. I'll go to my left. Robert. Yeah, and there again, you might, I'll at least go one trip around and then we'll come back if there's further comments or questions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I have some concerns. I'm not sure the crematorium is right for the town. I am, of course, concerned about the parking. I am concerned about the property values. I'm not sure that the especially dead center of town I definitely have some reservations about crematorium in the town of Haymarket. That's all I have.
Ms. Capasso?
I'm in favor of the crematory and the funeral home. I believe that the funeral home will support local businesses in the town of Haymarket. Families may order flowers from Melanie's Florist. They might reserve event spaces at Giuseppe's, and families may stay at our future hotel that will be developed. And death is a part of life. I live across from a cemetery in town. You know, there's some people that probably wouldn't want to live across from a cemetery, and there's some people who don't mind. And for me, I realize that death is a part of life, so it doesn't bother me. And I have to believe that what he says about the parking attendants and that they will help with the parking issues.
I don't have anything. I've watched all the things online. I've come to the public hearings. You saw me there, so I feel like I've asked my questions and read my literature.
So, in other words, you're ready to vote?
We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Panthy?
I have nothing.
Okay.
Actually, I found my answer as they speak. So.
Okay. Councilman Leake?
There's a quote, I believe, by Benjamin Franklin that said, "Nothing in this world can be certain except for death and taxes." So it sounds like I either need to be a tax accountant or I need to be in the funeral home business, one of the two. So I'm going to make a job switch here shortly. With that being said, looking at the SUP requirements and looking at things based off of the morals, or excuse me, the matters of hand within our zoning ordinance, and looking at what shall be achieved when judging it or looking at an SUP. I've took the time to go down to Dale City and go through the facility that they have down there, and as we were walking outside of the facility, we did an outside loop before we actually went inside, and when I went outside, I couldn't smell anything, couldn't see anything. Little did I know that an actual cremation was actually being happened and was being taking place at that time. And then once I went inside and went downstairs in the actual facility, yes, I could hear the machine physically inside the building, but not outside, but nor could I smell anything. And unless I went downstairs into that basement to actually look and see at that machine, I wouldn't have known that a cremation was being in process at that time. I think Mr. Church takes great care of his building and his facility, as I was able to see there in the Dale City. And maybe he just sent me to the Dale City one because the other one wasn't. Well, I don't know. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. And I don't have an issue with how the SUP is stated.
Okay. Councilman Shannon?
The Planning Commission, we got down in the weeds in this, and I think Vice Mayor saw everything and went back, and so we got down in the weeds, had some great questions and concerns, and I think they've addressed them. The one question, the one concern I wanted to bring up for anybody that's watching via internet is they talked about the concern with, rush hour around here. I mean, we're not going to widen Washington Street or anything. They normally, or take by 2 o'clock or so, I guess, is about when the procession actually starts. It's not during rush hour. It's a controlled exit with police there or whatever directing traffic. So traffic should not be an issue at all. I'm confident of that. Chairman Caudle has I believe it's a cousin that owns a crematorium and a funeral home. So he was able to provide some insight as well from other than what some of us, the research we did and all. So I have absolutely no issues with the SUP as written. I agree with Councilman Leake. I see no issues.
Okay. Further redirect, I guess, come back around if there's any other, pardon me?
I'm going to go.
Okay.
Bond, do you have anything? You good? I guess I just want to share that my one concern is, one of the commissioners was talking about how the comp plan is up for, I don't want to say rewriting, but updating our
Revision.
comprehensive plan. It's up for a revision. and one of the commissioners, and it really resonated with me that this is going to lock us in as to how it's going to go. You know, some people were upset when we voted for the Meladon development up here, and we assured them that this was the planned business interchange up here, and this was our walking town. This core of town was going to stay the walking, cute little shops, all that kind of stuff. And that really concerns me that, you know, that vision for this is going to go. I mean, this is going to be a car-driven business that's down this way. And that's what concerns me. I think we've worked so hard towards that it really brings me pause to think about that. So that's my concern.
I just think that a lot of those people that were saying those concerns too were also voicing their concerns about all the empty businesses and also the blight. And so I feel like, you know, there's going to be give and take, but we don't get to choose necessarily what comes, but it sounds like he's going to work really hard towards being a good neighbor and taking care of the property. So I think it's like there's different options, and we can't necessarily pick all of them, but we can try to help guide them. And it sounds like he's going to really try to be a good neighbor to all of our residents.
And now I'd like to speak. So I think I had wrote down regarding about the business use, and I realized that in a B1, there's specific uses for this, and it's wish that, my feeling that this use would be best suited in an industrial area, or a B2 area. It is allowed in a B1, with, obviously with this special use, but I've got hesitation and pause that for the citizens that did come out and speak, and I have that concern as they do, that what are we doing? I listened to the Planning Commission meeting and listened to Nick speak about that. You know, are we missing a point here that this really should be properly planned with, does this use really fit in our downtown B1 walking that's supposed to promote tourism, a local, you know, convenience. You know, I was here on the dais when on council member time when at the time Councilman Tobias brought up in his concern about Hunting Path and how the parking on Hunting Path was, which is right here, would be right on the other side of the street of the business. And basically, before that night ended, they restricted parking on one side of the street all the way down because of parking being a concern. We've seen parking without having a municipal parking lot. This would be a concern. I appreciate the numbers of thinking that the onesies are just one person in a car, but I could look at if you have at least 2 or 3 attendants. They had to get to the funeral home somehow. They obviously need to be parked. It would be very quickly to go through those numbers of spaces. But I have this hesitation and this pause that I'm just wondering, is this the right for our downtown area? Those are my concerns, and I'll be happy for if anybody would like to share with me, you know, to help me feel better about this, you know, thing that I ran on as a business-friendly, but yet walking town.
So I think it's a legitimate concern, but I think other businesses there could provide a lot more traffic, more constant traffic and everything than this Life Celebration home. You know, 90% of the time, you're not going to have a lot of cars there or whatever, unless they're parking at one of the restaurants or whatever. That's certainly a concern that I had thought about too, but again, it's not like, I mean, the amount of traffic there, I think if other businesses that we've looked at before go in there and everything, I think you have a lot more traffic than you would Life Celebration home, just my opinion.
Can I add one more thought?
Sure, that's where we're here.
And the shared parking, I want everybody to understand, I think it's great, the shared parking with the current tenant of that property. However, that does not if that property's sold or goes to another business, that does not convey to the next business or owner that comes in. So if this business grows and those businesses grow, that could be an issue. I'm just saying, I want it all out there.
Yeah, that would be, actually would be something like a proffer or land easement that would run with the land, and I can't imagine from a property owner's standpoint, would that be
I don't think, yeah, I mean, that would not be something that you would want to have addressed on a permanent basis.
Right.
Mayor, may I?
Right. Sure.
So, Mayor, you stated that you don't see this in our core walking town. What do you define as our core walking town? From what street to what street? Along Washington Street.
Well, let's go with our B1. And I know that where you're going to go with that. You're going to go that the fact that we went from B1 to commercial, transitional, exactly, where that was brought up so many years ago where we added that. But as Mrs. Leonard has stated, you know, way before we were ever up here on this dais, Washington Street was always business. It was designed that way. It was in the long-term plan that way, and it has, councils have evolved and gone through. The changes have been made to make Washington Street, you know, this mixed match of, we even had residential up there. I mean, the church was residential. So we've been cleaning it up. We're not there yet. I think Nick was spot on where, you know, we look at this as a master plan. What do we want on the downtown core? You put it in there, and then you make these uses somewhere down the line. But I agree with Vice Mayor that at some point, if you do lock yourself in, you're locking into something that you might not want as a finished product.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we aren't in great need of something like this out here or even in our town. I'm just not, you know, I'm a fanatic about the exact location of things. I mean, with other things that have come through and rezonings, I'm just kind of fanatical about that places are meant to go, things are meant to go in certain places. And I'm just not sure that this location is the best.
Well, I think that would be an explanation of why it's not a by right use. It's an SUP.
And I understand that there was a funeral home there back whenever. I understand that. But the demographic and the layout of our town has changed so much since that was true.
So, Mayor, would you say Madison to Fayette, Madison to Costello? I'm trying to understand where you're seeing that this use
I would
actually
say it's defined as we've defined it in the town.
Okay.
You know, we've defined the entire town as a historical town. We defined the B1 as the more business-friendly walking as you go out to the B2 or the I1. They're all defined, you know.
Well, correct, but if we were to say, all right, let's be constrictive there, then we're talking Madison to Fayette, but just on the other side of Fayette is a B2. And so if you're saying that you see it in a B2 use, that's within the same parameters practically, except it's just on the other side of the street. But it's still within the part of the
You'd make a
small
good
walking
argument with that. I understand that point.
And the other one is I'm curious to see where this was never brought up when we rewrote our zoning ordinance not long ago. What was it, 2 years ago? Right. And we had it in as a B1 special use, a B2 special use, and I1 special use. And so I'm just curious why it's now coming up to where if that was truly how it was, where we didn't want it in the B1, and why didn't we bring it up at that time in those regards. My take on it is that it's in there as an SUP with how dramatic and how spread out our zoning is throughout the town. If you start on our eastern side of town, one of our largest parcels there being 8 acres is zoned B1. Then we run into R2, R1 on the way down, run into the town green. Then we go again to B1 across the street is B1. Then we go TC, 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 B1, B1. Across the street's B1, B1 all the way down until we hit Winterham, which goes to B2. Back over the other side is B1. So, I mean, we have a big mix between B1, residential, B2 being all in there, as well as the only area that's actually defined as an industrial core is there, pretty much dealing with Leeberry Way and behind what is behind there, Leeberry. So to me, it's when we wrote this zoning ordinance not too long ago, we added in there for the reason to be looked at, noting that this could then fall within any property that is zoned B1 within the town. I think it is in line with our comp plan and how our comp plan is currently written. Our comp plan won't there change in regards to our actual zoning ordinance. The only way that it would then change is if the planning commission came in and took out that SUP for the funeral home within the B1 district. But the comp plan will stay the same in regards to what it sees within a B1 district and how it's currently written in years past that's written. In our past years of writing it, it's all been in general conformance with the same.
I'd like to address the traffic issue one more time. I'd just like to state that 200 funerals per year means 200 traffic tie-ups per year. I'd also like to mention that the attorney for the crematorium mentioned that if you didn't have the crematorium here, the people at the funeral would have to drive to Leesburg or Warrenton to view the crematorium and then return to the funeral home afterwards. So you're causing more traffic going out and in. What is to stop this crematorium from having crematoriums for other funerals? So now you're talking not in 200 traffic tie-ups, but people in other places, other funeral homes don't have crematoriums. They have their celebration of life there. Then they drive here for the crematorium, and then they drive there. So it doesn't, the traffic does not make sense. It doesn't make sense. This does not make sense in the town of Haymarket, the walking town, all of that. But there's nothing stopping them from doing that. So you're talking about more traffic.
But they might stop at our businesses when
Well,
They might.
Not
They
only that,
might. They
what
might.
are we going to do when
We'll
we?
keep it up if we can, so we can go back and forth. Did you finish, Robert?
Well, I just want to say, it's not just the additional, you're not just getting cars coming in, you're talking, stop, wait, 200 times. I mean, just in our little town of Haymarket that, I'm just, and again, in addition to them doing crematoriums for other places that are going to have to, again, if they're going to do that, if the transition like the attorney mentioned, and that's what they're going to go out to other places and have to come back. Well, again, there's nothing stopping them from allowing that to happen from other funeral homes. I just don't see, I just see a lot of traffic issues, so.
Over to you, Bob.
He talked about an average of 8 per month, so that's 96, nowhere close to 200. But the other thing is, what about the other businesses? We're going to have other business here. Traffic is here. Traffic is going to get worse. It's my understanding from other planning commissioners and other councilmen, traffic always comes up a concern, and traffic still moves. Look at all the other business right across the street. As we put other businesses coming in and everything, traffic's a reality. We're not going to stop it. So, again, my take, and because I have no light coming out of Fayette, I certainly have the concerns of traffic, because even now I get stopped sometimes there longer than I'd like to. But some business is going to go in there. Something's going in there. And is it a business that's, we had the one restaurant that had thought about coming in. That's traffic all day long, from open till close. With this life celebration home, again, it's certain times of the day. It's not a constant. And it could be as many as 96 times in a year that traffic's going to be stopped. But it's not for a short time. So the traffic is going to get worse in this town no matter what we do, because we know Washington's not going to be widened. We know that. But no matter what we do with the other businesses that we're trying to bring into this town, traffic's here. And it's going to get worse. There's no way of stopping it unless we just don't let anybody build in this town, which we all know that's not going to work. That's not going to happen. So Just my opinion.
Back to Ms. Cavazos, I think you had your hand, okay.
I just want to say that if maybe I misunderstood him, but I understood that he said probably 96 per year until they get going. Then year 2, year 3 would be
Yeah,
an
till
average
they
of
grow.
200 per year. And so that's where I was getting the 200 from. So
Okay.
he was saying that at the beginning, it would be a little slower, and then once they ramped up to full business, it would be like 200 per year.
As they grow, you're right.
That's
You're
what
right.
I understood.
Okay.
So again, it's not, like you say, you're going to have traffic no matter what. My concern is that, again, you're going to get out there and you're going to stop, let's say, for 40 cars, right? 40 cars is going to, hang on, wait a minute, I mean, you're stopping traffic until every single time that they have the funeral. I'm just concerned about that. Maybe it won't be around, but I'm envisioning it, and I'm like, uh-oh. So,
Other questions over on this side? Looks like Ms. Edwards, did you have?
No, I agree with, I respect Councilman Day's opinion on the traffic aspect, and I agree with Councilman Shane in regards to if you're looking at the actual use and what'll have the greatest impact there on the traffic. I wish I remember the numbers off the top of my head, but I don't. If we were to compare the traffic impact analysis that we utilize for Melodon in regards to restaurant uses compared to funeral use, not a betting man, but I'd probably say that a restaurant use would have a greater impact within the daily trips per day rather than a funeral would impact on that. So I think it has a lesser impact in regards to traffic rather than a higher impact, as if there was a more higher intensity use within that B1 that is a by right use and would not require an SUP.
Other thoughts or discussion? Other questions we might have? The biggest thing, are we ready to vote tonight, or would you rather defer? I see like a shaking of the head of yes tonight.
I'm ready to vote.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve SUP number 2018-010.
I second.
Discussion on the motion as presented. Seeing no discussion. Shelley? Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Banthy?
Yes.
Edwards?
No.
Cavazos?
Yes.
Day?
no.
Okay. The motion carries. Our next item on our agenda here, we have the Harover Park Playground proposal.
Just 1 second, I'd like to pull it up on our screen so that we can see the drawings. Is everyone able to see that okay? Yes. Okay. So we started talking about the playground proposal during the work session. Some concerns that came up were the handicap ADA accessible play unit, the inspection, the maintenance, and had we gotten other proposals. So this is our current proposal, option 1, working with playground specialists. This playground specifically is geared towards 30 to 35 children to play at a time, ranging from infancy all the way up to about 12 years of age. Of course, older children could play. The equipment might just not be appropriate for their age or size. So we've put in this proposal here 2 teeter-totter type pieces of equipment here on the right side, and those would be geared towards the toddler age group. And then for infancy and toddler, we have also the small swing on the far side of the swing set, the 2 swings, normal swings here, and the large piece of equipment with slides, climbing features, monkey bars, and so forth. That is all geared towards the age group of 5 to 12 and should hold between 20 and 25 children during full playtime. And then we have a second option here. It rearranges things just a little bit to include what they call a Unity rocker. This is a piece of equipment, the round piece here in the center, that allows for ADA accessible playtime for children who maybe are wheelchair bound or have other disabilities. It allows for them to sit on the piece of equipment and have other children join them and play with them. It rocks back and forth. They're able to rock it. A person standing up could rock it, or the other children on the piece of equipment could. I was talking with Councilman Leak in previous discussions. I mentioned this during the work session about a wheelchair accessible swing. That is something that I'm looking into. This company does not currently offer that. However, we could get it from a third party. They will install it and they will maintain it the best that they're able to. What happens is if we were to need replacement parts for it, we would have to go back through that third party. We wouldn't be able to get it from this manufacturer. So that's one thing to point out. Another thing during the planning process with the Planning Commission, we discussed the difference between rubber carpeting, so that's the thick surface that is very smooth on playgrounds in some of the more urban settings. We went with the wood carpet. It saves us roughly $25,000. So right now, the wood carpeting you see here ranges between $3,000 and $5,000 based on our 2 different drawing options on the square footage that's needed for safe play. This is something that annually we would have to have an inspector come out. The playground specialist representative I'm working with, Evan, he is a inspector, and he would come out and do our inspections for us as the Prince William County rep. And after inspections, we would analyze if we need to add more wood carpeting. This is something that Evan mentioned will range anywhere from a couple $100 to $1,000 a year. It all depends on the amount of play, the weather, and really if children are picking it up and carrying it out of the area there. So that is something maintenance-wise that we would look into. The equipment should last us about 10 to 15 years. All of this equipment has the option, you can add additional features to it. We can take the play equipment on the far right and we can add slides, we can add climbers. It's all kind of compatible within the manufacturer as long as we keep with the same manufacturer. And that's a big safety thing. They will not certify that the playgrounds are safe and able for children to use if the equipment's not properly maintained, obviously, and the manufacturer requirements aren't met. So, and the last thing is we are going to be adding a fence in. So right now we're proposing that this playground would be, if you guys were at Haymarket Day, it would be down near where the hay bales were for the concert that we had. And it'll be in that flatter area in between the 2 driveways. So we are going to put a fence around it. I'll work with the ARB to come up with something that's attractive yet keeps all of the children inside and doesn't give them the opportunity to crawl under or leave easily. This will help with safety close to the road. And then the Planning Commission also plans that once we're able to get the playground in place, a fence, we can look into doing some studies for a crosswalk and really come up with, you know, here's an end use and now let's put a crosswalk in. So we have a lot of plans. We have a little action list. We had 5 things we wanted to accomplish in the park this fiscal year. This was our number 1, so I'm happy to research further options, additional costs. Right now, the 2 proposals you have in the packet include the site work, the upfront maintenance, things like that, installation, ground prep, all of that. So are there any questions?
I have one.
Okay.
Is this in the location for the master plan that we did?
So
For the park?
the master plan that we did, this location calls for kind of the open play. There was one option where the playground was here. In, I believe, the approved one, there was not officially a playground.
Okay, but this
so-
is in the open play area?
Yeah,
Okay.
and to kind of reference why this came up this year, so we have 68K in the budget, and we've used a little bit, so we're about 64. The other playground that was in town on a private property was closed due to some safety concerns. So what we wanted to do is we heard from the residents. This is where they played in the spring and the summer. They missed it. They felt like they were lacking something in their community to bond with other families and small children. So we kind of took that as a little cry for help to start doing something at our park and utilize it. So this is what we've come up with. And the Planning Commission, we do plan to have a Phase 2 and a Phase 3. And it might include different additions to the equipment or expanding to maybe include some pieces of equipment for adults. We're open to any ideas, but we do plan to have another phase.
Thank
How
you.
much did you say that, okay, with the wood surface there, how much did you say annually? That would probably be $1,000 annually?
Yes, so when I spoke with Evan, he said usually you spend a couple hundred, because what happens is the children use the swings, they kick their feet, because there's nothing more fun than kicking mulch. And so right there, they lose the highest amount of impact that they need, so you have to have a certain amount of mulch under the swings. And then also near the perimeter of it, they will pick it up or track it out if they start kicking it. So he said usually it's a couple hundred, but the most they've seen for a playground this size was 1,000.
Have you, I'm not asking you to start it because I like the plan. Have you looked at the one I brought up a couple months ago when we talked about this? The playground up by Harris Teeter. It's actually by the Mexican food restaurant back over there where the condos are. There's a playground, fenced, rubberized. Have you taken a look at that by chance?
Is it this new Harris Teeter here?
No, it's down by 15
The other
La
direction?
Paradilla or whatever.
I have not.
It's, I'm very familiar with it because my grandbabies, they love going, they like Mexican food, but they like, because they know they're going to go over there. That's a real neat little park, and it's got a couple of little things in it that when we're out there and we watch the children, the small children, that they can get on and play, you know, a little car that they can get in, and, I mean, just some neat little things. So I'd recommend you just take a look at that sometime, just to get ideas. I'm not asking you to start over, reinvent the wheel, because this, I think this is great.
But moving
But,
forward, maybe
yeah.
for
Maybe
additional.
Yeah,
phase
exactly.
2. One thing we also looked at is when working with Evan, he said instead of doing something like the Unity rocker, you could do percussion play. So it's certain types of equipment that are installed that allow a user of any accessibility range to go up and play with the equipment, and then it makes noises.
It's drums.
Yes.
They have them at that playground. When you go up and look at that playground, it's got like some bongo drums there, and the kids get on there and, well, I'm guilty too. I play them because I'm a drummer, but it's a pretty neat little things there. If you get a chance, just take a look.
Okay.
For later phase or something.
Have you gotten any proposals from any other playground providers?
I have not yet. Playground Specialist is the one in Prince William County, so that's who I went with. They reached out to us, but I am happy to look into them and come up with, one or two more.
Because one of my concerns is if they're saying it'll be lasting like 10, 13 years or something like that, doesn't seem, that goes by pretty fast. Yeah, I'd love to see some other options, just, price-wise and maybe like length of time that they'll last long,
Okay.
Yes.
My only thing I agree with Mr. Davis is going to be, did we solicit this quote or did we go out to bid? So I'd like to, not necessarily we have to do formal bidding, but I'd like to get some other quotes out there from different companies for price-wise, just to make sure that we're getting the most bang for our buck. But number two, and I'm hard set on, is that I want an ADA swing part of this playground. That'd be the only thing that I would be non-negotiable on, is making sure that we have a ADA accessible swing. I love the rocker in the center. I love the drums as well, but I think an ADA swing would. I think that's we need it.
Yep, agree.
Okay.
Okay.
There's
Right.
a brand I looked into before,
Mhm.
it was last year or the year before. It's called Landscape Structures. I can
Okay.
forward you the email.
That would be great.
Just for another option, and they were great. They reached right back to me, and and I know that they had some handicap features too, so you could just compare.
Okay, I'll do that.
I'll forward it to you.
Thank you. So I will get some more quotes and hopefully bring something back in February. to our meeting.
Okay.
We're going to go in the spring.
All right.
I think it's important that we're moving forward with this. People are, and we're going to see, because we've been talking about it, we talked about
The
this as a team, as a council. We talked about, let's put some date, let's move forward, get something done. So it's commendable, Emily, that what you're doing there.
Okay, next item was our Haymarket Day 2019 event date. For those, I think, that didn't make the work session, we discussed where we got this date from. There was concerns about the holidays. So, Miss Emily, maybe you could just take us forward with that it looks
So
like the,
during the work session, we discussed that the vendors, participants, community loved our sudden change in date for Haymarket Day this past year. And so we looked at officially moving the date to the third Saturday in October. We chose this date based on the chief's events that he throws in October for breast cancer awareness, as well as the Columbus Day holiday. Then you get into Halloween and cooler temperatures, date changes. We didn't want to go up any earlier in September due to school starting and getting a little busy, so we felt that this was a really good weekend, allows everyone time to adjust to school starting and really get going into fall. So we are proposing to change it officially to the third Saturday. This year it'd be October 19th, 2019, and we also would like to discuss potentially changing the time from 9 to 4 to be 10 to 5, and then put our parade back up around 10:30, and this would allow for the parade to start the day off again, and then go ahead and not get out of the way, but finish off and then allow for the busy time right around lunchtime is when we get our peak numbers for participants. So that allows them to shop and get a bite to eat and listen to the music.
okay.
I'm in favor of those changes.
Yeah. So maybe we'll make it a formal, do you want to draft a?
I believe the last.
Yeah, there is a draft motion, 99, I believe.
And I think maybe just, I have 113, page 113, the very last page. If you want to add the new time, if that's amenable.
I moved the town council to adopt the third Saturday of October as the new date for the annual Haymarket Day celebration, with the time adjusted from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
I second the motion.
Motion been second. Discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstained? Motion carries unanimously. Next item, our council member time. Councilman Shannon.
Two quick things. I did the ride along New Year's Eve with our police, and I got to tell you, I say it every month, but our police set the example. I'm so proud of them. And when this mobile meth lab got stopped, that's when I went ahead and exited and went home. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. I was kind of tired anyway, and I know I'd have been sitting there. Chief won't let me get out there. I got to sit in the car. They almost cuffed me there, but I got to stay in the car. And since when Sergeant Shaver came over, I said, it's going to be a couple of hours, isn't he? Because I saw him shutting down. He said, yeah. I said, okay, good night. So I walked home. But I think the chief and him with their policy for the ride-along, so I think that's so important. I absolutely enjoyed it and will continue doing that. I think that's the only thing I have, other than the fact that, again, I talked about this earlier, about this Officer Down Memorial ride. As I said earlier, it's going to be extra special with our cousin being killed in the line of duty the other night. I look forward to that event. That's all I have, sir.
Okay. Councilman Leake.
Thank you, Mayor. Apologize for not being at the work session today, especially since I was the one who asked for the discussion on the building official. I apologize for that. One thing that I also like to talk about, and not necessarily at this time, but the thoughts on a municipal parking lot. I've brought it up in past years in the Planning Commission. Within our zoning ordinance, we have pretty strict guidelines in regards to our parking regulations. A lot of folks who are wanting to come in town and actually be able to develop sites in town have issues in regards to the return that they'll be able to make off of it due to property values and building costs. For instance, we came across such thing with the firehouse when they came and they gave us a couple proposals. We would end up having to do a waiver for that, as well as Lane Motors. I believe we have an interested party, but they're coming to the same issue with parking. A lot of things, this is in the early stages. Miss Emily and I spoke about it very briefly, but a lot of things would have to be thought out and looked through to see where we could purchase a piece of property in town that would be core within our core center, as well as what costs would be associated with the maintenance of the property, how you would go about it. Would you be doing meters, validation? If someone came in and needed a shared parking agreement, would they be paying a front foot fee, or would they be paying a monthly ground lease, or we would be validating their parking, and every ticket they validated, they would pay us back, but somehow to recuperate the cost of it. But I think it would be something that's definitely needed. There's towns around that have these municipal parking centers that are utilized. And I think it would allow us to be able to have some of these properties right here in the core of town, which don't have the ground square footage for parking, to be able to actually develop and then be a small walking town at the same time, if we're able to have more of that street front lot full. Folks can park elsewhere and be able to walk too. So definitely in the early stages, I'll bring something at next month's meeting to open the discussion and see what council's thought is, or even if we want to kick it to the planning commission for their thoughts on the matter. But I think it's something that's at least worth thinking about and discussing.
Good. All right. Councilman Panty.
I have
Anything?
nothing. Just everything we discussed.
Okay. Understood. Vice Mayor. Councilman Cavazos.
This really has to do with the Architectural Review Board, but it is my personal thoughts, so it's kind of two in one. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention, and if you haven't had a chance to watch or listen to our work session that was held on December 11th, but 6 buildings were proposed for demolition, and they were, I'm just going to go ahead and read this to you, but it was 15011 Washington Street, 15010 Payne Lane, 15003 Washington Street, 6704 Jefferson Street, 6707 Fayette Street, and 15001 Washington Street. The applicant, Stan Payne Development LLC, may be requesting, that was what the work session was about, our meeting is coming up, to demolish all of the structures mentioned above. According to the ARB bylaws and rules of procedure, Article 2A, the ARB was authorized to oversee and administer town regulations concerning physical changes within its historic district overlay and to assist the council in its efforts to preserve and protect historic places and areas in the town, pursuant to Section 15.1-503.2 of the Code of Virginia. In an effort to preserve and protect historic places in our town, I feel that while some of the buildings mentioned above may be beyond repair, some are worth preserving for future generations. Our town's charm and character will be erased with its architecture if we fail to protect its last remaining historic structures. If you refer back to the packet that we had that night, there were two buildings, H and F, which provide historic beauty and aesthetics to our town, and I feel need to be preserved. There are a few possible alternatives to demolition that the applicant may consider. Rather than selling the property with all of the current structures together, the applicant could separate the property into parcels, allowing an opportunity for buyers who may be interested in purchasing the existing structures with the hopes of preserving them. Another option would be to sell H&F for a small amount of money, similar to what they did with the cookies and cream house, with the stipulation that they have a specified amount of time to renovate into a viable town business or home. If there are any other options that we could provide to an investor to make it more enticing to purchase and rehabilitate those buildings, we should try to do so. And this is one of the things we discussed, was removing buffers, providing incentives, and eliminating certain fees. We realize that this may require making additions or changes to our current ordinances with assistance from Planning Commission and Town Council. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, and hopefully to watch the ARB or come to the ARB meeting this month, because it's going to be a big one.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Councilman Day, no. I forgot, I didn't see it on our agenda. I don't think we really had any ARB or Planning Commission updates. Did I miss that?
No, we just, at the Planning Commission, we discussed what we discussed tonight. That was the main thing, the funeral, and we talked about McDonald's too, about the site plan there, made some recommendations and everything, and we talked a little bit about what Councilman Day, I think, had recommended, which makes a lot of sense. So that was pretty much all we did. Okay. Am I missing anything there, Tim? Okay.
All right. Closing comments tonight. Planning Commissioner Nick, I heard your concerns. Mrs. Turner, the King family, Mr. Weir, Peg and Joe Cartucci, I heard your concerns. Sitting in this position, it's not easy, but I will be putting my objections in writing to the clerk within my 5 days for a decision made tonight. So that's basically all I have to say. That way everybody's up front and can hear it once and for all. But thank you all, appreciate it. We'll take that motion.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you all.
Clemson is